Welcome back. I'm Terry.
I'm John.
And this past Sunday, I was sitting down doing some work and I started noticing that my Facebook feed was full of all of these pictures of this huge smoke plume in my local groups. And so I got up and looked out the window and we had a huge fire.
It's in Provo, just south of Provo, Buckley Mountain, basically, but they call it the Buckley Draw Fire. It's actually not too far from where I grew up, Slate Canyon. Had I still been fighting fires, it's been a long time. I was on the Utah County Wildland Fire team with the Forest Service. I would have been called out. I would have been one of the first people called out for that fire. Now they use more helicopters and that kind of thing. And I was just a grunt. I was just, hand tools and.
But because of the terrain of that fire, they actually have the hot shots on it now, and they're spiking out, meaning they're camping up there on the mountain because it is in such difficult terrain.
It's super steep. It's up a little bit higher. Cause is still under investigation, but we didn't have any storms or anything like that, so it's going to be man-made. Anyways, we wanted to take a quick video. We have some other things planned. We're going to take some time away from that and go over some of the stuff that what are you going to do when you have to evacuate? We had a fire 7 years ago that was pretty close to, we were fine, but neighboring town was pretty close, and the whole town had to evacuate for, I think, a week. And they were all camped out in their RVs in the high school parking lot and they couldn't go back and get stuff. Luckily, it didn't burn any. They got it, didn't burn any houses, no structures.
That was a huge fire. It ended up combining with another fire.
It's 100,000 acres, and it came dangerously close to destroying the town.
Yeah.
Take some time to go over what do you do when they say an evacuate. You hear that alert and you need to leave. And sometimes you have a lot of time. Sometimes they say, hey, we're going to evacuate out of abundance of caution. We need everyone out of here in a couple hours. Sometimes you have 10 minutes.
And that's where, like I said, a lot of my feed has been filled with information about this fire and information from places like Utah Fire Info. So they've been covering a lot of stuff. They've been covering the different colors mean for evacuation. So green is everything's good, be aware of your surroundings, but you don't need to worry about it right now.
It's like a watch.
Yeah. Yellow, start getting your stuff together. We may have to evacuate you. And red is get out now. Do not go back for stuff. You should have already had your car packed. Go. One of the other things that they posted was what they called the 5 Ps, the things that you want to have in your kit in case you do get that red, get out of here now.
The first one is papers. They want all your important documents. We've talked about this before. If your house does get burned down or whatever, and you don't have all the federal help, depends on IDs, driver's license, birth certificates, that kind of thing. So you want all your important documents, even if it's a will. I'd have a will in it anyways, but.
Plus you need your insurance papers.
Yes, insurance papers, will, anything that may be important that you can't just go and get real quick. So Social Security cards, all that stuff.
The second is your prescriptions. When that whole town evacuated near us, you can imagine they couldn't just run to Walgreens or Walmart and refill their prescriptions. A whole town worth filling their stuff? That's not going to work.
And especially if you've got controlled substances where they are controlled by federal law, how much they can dispense. And if certain like pain medications and things like that, they can't refill those. So
well, you're SOL.
Yeah, so you got to make sure you have, that's why we've always talked about in all of our kits, 3 days worth and everything. But like we said, that town was a week. So maybe you start squirreling away a little bit extra, or ask your provider, your care provider, to have a script that's just for, that you put in your go bag.
Again, I don't know federal
but
law would.
Then again, regulations, things like that. So talk to your care provider about that.
The third thing is personal needs. It's going to be your 72-hour kit, any personal hygiene items, clothes, if you need a sleeping bag, any of that.
Extra money, that kind of stuff. And then you're going to, the priceless items, whatever you can't replace. So that watch that you got inherited from granddad or anything like that just money can't buy. Also the very expensive stuff. So if you're hoarding gold, you may want to take it. But if you've got, expensive watches or jewelry, things like that, you may want to pack those up and take them with you.
Although I'm not sure that pew-pews would be a good idea to evacuate with.
I would, but
yeah.
just basically the important things that are priceless that money can't buy.
Your people and your pets.
And that's the most important thing, is make sure you have all your family and your pets, and don't forget the food for the pets.
And a leash.
Yeah, you're gonna need
some kind of a container.
Your crate, your leash, that kind of stuff. Most crates fold down and are easy to pack. Our case, we have so many dogs, I don't think we could get them all in the truck. But that's the important thing, is the people, your pets, things you can't go back for. So just however much time you have, that's how much time you have to think about this. So think about it now. Make sure you have everyone should have a go bag, 72-hour kit, truck kit, whatever it is you guys choose for that emergency kit. And then think of what do you need to grab on top of that if you need to evacuate for a fire or flood. So it'd be the same thing you need for a flood, but we're specifically talking about fires here, wildland fires.
And another thing that we were discussing is, because we live in a small town outside of Provo, we spend a lot of time up in Provo, whether it's for doctor's appointments, shopping, service calls, that kind of thing. So we were discussing what would happen if we were up there and the call was made to evacuate. Because, I mean, this fire, it's not a lot of acres right now, the current fire, and luckily it went up away from the town, but it was moving very fast. It doubled in size overnight.
Yes, and in fact, the Pole Creek fire, the one that we were talking about 7 years ago, it was just a lightning strike. They were watching it. There was a couple of trees.
And they were smoldering.
And they were just smoldering, and they had they was so remote. And then all wind picked up, and it just turned into this horrific fire. So you don't want to mess with it. So, but they were lucky, because Provo's lucky, because the fire traveled uphill. So that was good about it.
Now, another thing, our local city
emergency response team.
Yeah, they have handed out these, it's just a gallon Ziploc bag with 4 different colors of paper that are supposed to go in your front window in case of an emergency, a window that can be seen from the street.
So in an evacuation, once we evacuate, we put the green up in the storm door or the front window so they would know that we're evacuated.
The directions that we were given when it comes to these is green is we're all good or we're gone. Yellow is we're okay, but we need some help. Red is we need emergent help. And black
is that there's deceased people inside.
That there's a death. And so we just wanted to take some time now that we've once again had a wildland fire close to us. I know that there's lots of people that have dealt with these also, and this summer has been horrid for fires here in the west.
Yeah, it's been especially. We've got one down south that is just huge down in Monroe.
Actually, it's not anymore.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, they've been pulling teams off of it and stuff. It's finally, but it was the largest fire in the U.S. We had over 1,500 personnel on it.
Anyways, we've had our fair share of wildland fires, not specifically here where we're at. We usually have a lot more smaller fires close by, like the Buckley fire, but we usually have probably 5 or 6 in July and August. So we lucked out that we only had the one, but it just reminded us that we need to remind you of the 5 Ps.
And things to be thinking about in case you're not home, in case something like this happens.
If you don't have a plan, start thinking about your plan.
Another thing I was going to bring up, at least in the old days when I was growing up and we were preparing for earthquakes and lahars and all of that stuff, one of the things that we were told to do is to have an out-of-area contact.
Oh, yeah. We did touch on that in the video.
Because the local circuits are all busy, but you can a lot of times get outside of local.
We don't have that problem so much anymore because we don't use landlines, but you can always get data out. So you always want to have an out-of-area contact anyways, where if the family gets separated or whatever, they're your go-to person. So if it's grandma and grandpa that live in the next state or a family friend or whatever, you always want to have that contact of that one person that's out of the area that everybody knows. If you get separated, if there's an emergency and you don't hear from so-and-so or whatever, then you need to call them and they should have information for you. So
like if you were gone and I was home and I had to evacuate and you couldn't get a hold of me, it would be like,
you'd have a hard time with one call.
Well, I'd hit you right. Anyway, we wanted to take a minute and touch on this and pass on some of the information that we've been seeing locally because we thought it was great information.
We got some really cool stuff coming up, so stick around. Thanks,
See you next time.